DMT flash is just so, it's so overwhelming and so crazy that your brain can't really even process it. And I imagine that's what happened to you. I want to ask you something. Did you ever, you explained to me your experiences before and how I believe you said you came across some entities, seemingly, but did you ever come across that door thing or something like that, kind of like a barrier, in your experiences?
Yeah, except it was not a mandala, fractal type deal like you were explaining, and like, the fabric type thing. Like, I know what you're talking about, and like that's almost like the canvas, the mandala tapestry of your experience kind of like unfolds in front of you. And then like what I tried to explain is that, like, I call them the creases, but like, where those lines intersect becomes like a blackness opens up. And what happened to me was I was in a complete and total black void. Come on, Bean, not right now, man. I'm trying to talk, drink coffee, man. Yeah, he really wants to be petted. Anyway, yeah, so it complete and total black void, and then just a rectangular door. And like the door opened, and it was literally like, the only way I could see that it was a door was that there was light shot, like it was a white void on the other side of it. And I think I tried to explain, like, when I went through that door, however I went through it, like, I was in a situation where the entities the first time I went through that door were there, but they were faceless and completely had, like, basically had no attributes. Like they were all identical to one another, and like they were all almost aware of that fact, and that they were kind of just playing around with the idea that they were all like identical to one another. It was very weird, and like I was part of that. And it was a form of dancing, if you want to call it that. I don't know, it was like a movement. But like the white void was also simultaneously black. Like it was almost like it was almost like being blind. I was only aware of their presence, like in their proximity, in a way that wasn't really sight related. Like but as far as like, breaking through a mandala, portal, and then coming out to the machine elf world, I didn't experience that. The second time I went through that dark door, I was alone, and that actually scared the ever living shit out of me. And so like it actually motivated me to make to stop smoking cannabis for a month. It was very powerful. I mean, every DMT experience it was very powerful. But one thing I haven't brought up with you yet, and like, but that I did mention in a comment on your video, the more similar experience that I had to the DMT experiences that you were describing was my one with the contaminated 5-meo MIPT that I tried to get. And that was just by chance that we wound up finding out what it was. So a friend of mine, who will remain nameless, was getting basically synthetic psychedelics online, from China, the specific batch I believe was. And, being really dumb and reckless and pretty much in line with my general behavior, up until that point, like just not doing the allergy test, not being smart about it, and did what was like a lower than average dose, a little bit lower than average dose of what would be the 5-meo MIPT, insufflating it, which is how you had to do a lot of this shit, which is, pretty brutal. And a lot of this stuff is nasty. Like it's just, you can't even imagine. And like the second that I did it though, I was like, that is not right. Something is very, very wrong. And like, I can't even describe to you. I mean, I can try very hard. It's very difficult. But like, as far as like the whole feeling of being ripped from your body and like going somewhere else, like, I kind of described that with the DMT experience, but like, I could almost just say that like I was going like within myself, not somewhere else. It felt more like, with this, it felt not like that. And like, it was so brutally synthetic and like just raw, like just tearing apart like my reality. Like the whole like creases opening up thing, I almost felt like I could see through walls. Like at different points in my vision, like different star patterns were like, black star patterns were opening up. It literally looked like some fucked up, computer code that you could write. You know what I mean? Like that's literally, that's what it looked like. And it was terrifying. I mean, absolutely fucking terrifying. My friends come up to me and they're like snapping their fingers in front of me. I'm completely unresponsive. I'm like, just, I can't, function. And what they described I kept doing was like, I would like lay on the ground and like lay there for like 20 seconds and then like jump up to my feet and like be terrified. And like, as this was happening, like basically what was going on in my mind was a couple of different things. So simultaneously, like the world was my entire experience, like the universe itself was like being created and destroyed all like at the same time, like
Whoa.
basically like but not just in like in that sense, like so I felt like I was dying over and over again, first of all.
Yeah.
But um like it was like I was seeing glimpses into like extreme spectrums of different attributes or behavior. So like an extremely like feminine version of myself, or an extremely masculine version of myself, or like an extremely aggressive version of myself, or an extremely passive version of myself. And like each time it wavered from one perception to the other, like the universe melted and destroyed and like was destroyed. And like I don't know what to really make of that, but as this was happening and like interspersed, like whether it was separate experience or happening at the same time is impossible for me to say.
Right.
But I felt like I went to this place that I can only describe as the facility. um, and basically, not that I could like discernibly see any of their features necessarily, but I was aware of entities that were actually human entities, like people that I knew, like people in my life, like and essentially what it was that these soul-like entities were basically in this facility constructing our reality. And like it, but nothing like so crisp and clear and in your face is like what McKenna and Psych Substances was describing,
Right.
you know. And so I don't really know what to make of that. And also it's clearly a different experience, because I mean they're describing like completely different entities with different qualia and like whole different, you know, whereas like what I'm describing is people with attributes that I know and that I have known. And like so it almost lends itself more to the thought that it was just, you know, purely an internal experience and a hallucination. But I do see like the similarity and the feeling like getting
It does
ripped out of
sound
your
like
body.
super similar, and like there's a lot of things that in that experience itself that are very like similar. I have like a couple questions. I mean, like, did you ever like feel like you were losing your sense of ego, or were you kind of just were you kind of there the whole experience? Like, you know, like was your ego present for it?
Yes,
Okay.
it was. And like not only that, but like that was kind of like the fluctuation. Like my ego was almost like what I felt like was fluctuating between these different attributes of like feminine and masculine, or like aggressive and passive, and like
Right.
and almost seeing myself act out and like live an entire life where I was more or less in those different ways, you know, but my same person.
Right.
And like also
I mean, because I wouldn't be surprised if, like, in a sense, I mean, okay, like, if I just took your experience as it was and just heard it the way it sounds, I would say, like, oh, okay, that was internal. But there is like there's a lot of evidence, and I go through this when when I've discussed DMT before, that like these sub-threshold doses can give you kind of a glimpse into that world, even though you're not directly there. You kind of get hints of its existence, and like there are a lot of like DMT like experiences that people have without DMT. And a lot of like references to that kind of DMT space, even from people who have no idea about DMT or about drugs in general.